The moment you understand your worth, everything in your relationships changes. Too often, people make the mistake of believing that love is something they must earn, something they must work tirelessly for, as if it's a prize at the end of a race. But the truth is, you are the prize. You are not someone who needs to beg for attention, prove their worth, or chase after someone who is uncertain about you. The second you start behaving like the reward rather than the seeker, the entire dynamic shifts in your favor. Think about this. What happens when something is rare and valuable? It is sought after, it is cherished, it is protected. But when something is too easy to get, too readily available, people take it for granted. Human nature is wired this way. We desire what we believe is exclusive, what we feel we could lose, and what makes us feel like we have accomplished something by obtaining it. This is why the moment you place someone else on a pedestal, prioritizing them above your own self-worth, you devalue yourself in their eyes. Being the prize doesn't mean playing games or manipulating someone into wanting you. It means embodying a level of confidence and self-respect that makes it clear you are not someone who will settle for less than you deserve. It means recognizing that your time, your energy, and your love are valuable, and only those who appreciate it fully get access to it. Imagine walking into a room knowing without a shadow of a doubt that you are enough, that you bring something unique to the table, that your presence is a gift. What happens when you truly believe this? People respond differently to you. They sense your certainty, your self-respect, and they adjust their behavior accordingly. Those who may have taken you for granted in the past suddenly realize they need to put in the effort to be part of your world. And that is the key. When you chase someone, whether emotionally or physically, you shift the power dynamic. The person being chased automatically assumes they have something more valuable, something you are desperate to obtain. And when that happens, they stop putting in effort. They stop feeling the need to impress you, to cherish you, to win you over. They assume you will always be there, always available, always waiting. But when you operate as the prize, you flip that dynamic entirely. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are the one doing the choosing. This mindset shift is critical. It means you don't just accept someone's presence in your life because they show you a little bit of attention. You assess whether they meet your standards, whether they bring value to your life, and whether they align with what you truly want. And if they don't, you don't lower your standards just to keep them around. You don't shrink yourself to fit into their world. Instead, you stand firm, knowing that the right person will recognize your worth and rise to meet you. But what does being the prize look like in action? It means maintaining your own passions, your own goals, and your own sense of self outside of any relationship. It means never making someone else the sole source of your happiness or validation. It means having boundaries and enforcing them unapologetically. When you do this, you create an aura of self-assurance that is incredibly attractive. Men, like anyone else, are drawn to confidence. Not arrogance, not neediness, but genuine self-assurance. And when a woman knows who she is and what she brings to the table, she doesn't need to prove it to anyone. And that energy is magnetic. It creates curiosity. It makes people want to be around you, to understand you, to earn your attention rather than simply receiving it without effort. Think about the most captivating people you know, the ones who command a room without even trying, the ones who seem effortlessly desired and respected. What do they all have in common? They value themselves. They don't overextend for people who don't reciprocate. They don't beg for love or chase after those who are unsure. They stand in their power, and by doing so, they naturally attract the right people into their lives. So often, we are conditioned to believe that we must do more, give more, sacrifice more to prove our worth in relationships. But the truth is, the more you try to prove, the less valuable you appear. The most desirable people are those who don't seek approval because they already approve of themselves. They don't need to chase because they know their worth, and they trust that the right person will recognize it without persuasion. This is the essence of being the prize. It's not about withholding love or playing hard to get. It's about knowing that you are already enough, exactly as you are. It's about understanding that anyone who fails to see your worth is simply not meant for you. And when you embody this mindset, something incredible happens. You stop fearing loss. You stop worrying about whether someone will stay or go, because you know that those who truly value you will always choose to be in your life. The moment you make this shift, the dynamics of your relationships transform. Instead of overinvesting in people who give you breadcrumbs of attention, you focus on yourself. You focus on your growth, your happiness, and your fulfillment. And ironically, when you do this, people become more drawn to you. They feel your confidence, they sense your high value, and suddenly, instead of you wondering if they will choose you, they start wondering if you will choose them. This is the power of positioning yourself as the prize. It's not about arrogance or superiority, it's about self-respect. It's about recognizing your value and refusing to settle for anything less than what you deserve. When you embrace this fully, you become the kind of person that others are naturally drawn to, the kind of person they don't want to lose. And that is the secret to creating lasting attraction, not through force or persuasion, but through the undeniable energy of self-worth. Emotional mastery is one of the most powerful tools you can develop, not just in relationships, but in every aspect of life. The way you handle your emotions dictates how people perceive you, how they respond to you, and ultimately the level of respect and attraction they feel towards you. Too often people believe that love and connection are about words and actions alone. But the truth is, energy is what drives attraction. Nothing disrupts that energy more than emotional instability. Think about this. When you react impulsively, when you let your emotions control you, what happens? You feel out of control. You say things you regret. You act in ways that don't align with your true power. And on the receiving end, the other person senses that loss of control. Instead of seeing you as a stable, confident, high-value individual, they begin to see someone who is easily swayed, overly reactive, or emotionally dependent. That is not attractive. Men, just like anyone else, are drawn to stability. They may not always be aware of it, but they naturally gravitate toward people who exude calmness, confidence, and emotional security. When you master your emotions, you create an aura of strength that makes people respect and admire you. They feel safe around you. They feel intrigued by you. They feel that your presence is not chaotic, but grounding. And that is what keeps people coming back. Now, emotional mastery does not mean suppressing your feelings. It does not mean becoming cold, distant, or emotionless. That is a misunderstanding. True emotional mastery means feeling everything deeply but responding with intention rather than reaction. It means recognizing your emotions, understanding where they come from, and choosing how to express them in a way that aligns with your highest self. Picture this scenario. You are dating someone, and suddenly they start pulling away. They don't call as often, they seem less engaged, and you feel that shift in energy. What is the instinctive reaction for most people? Panic, fear, anxiety. They immediately start overanalyzing, texting more, demanding explanations, or emotionally breaking down. And what happens? That behavior pushes the other person even further away. Why? Because desperation repels. Neediness signals a lack of emotional control. And when someone feels overwhelmed by another person's emotional instability, their natural response is to distance themselves. Now imagine handling the same situation from a place of emotional mastery. Instead of panicking, instead of reacting impulsively, you pause, you breathe. You remind yourself that your worth is not determined by someone else's attention. You step back, observe, and respond from a place of confidence. Maybe you mirror their energy instead of chasing. Maybe you take that space to focus on yourself. Maybe you ask a direct but calm question about what's going on instead of assuming the worst. What do you think happens in this scenario? The other person notices your self-betrayal. They realize you are not someone who can be easily thrown off balance. They respect you more because they see that you have a strong foundation within yourself. And more often than not, they are drawn back toward you because emotional security is attractive. Think about the most captivating people you know, the ones who walk into a room and command attention without saying a word. What is it about them? It's not just their looks or their words, it's their energy. They exude confidence, calmness, and a deep sense of self-awareness. They do not react impulsively. They do not let outside circumstances dictate their internal state. They own their emotions rather than letting their emotions own them. So how do you cultivate this kind of emotional mastery? It starts with self-awareness. Pay attention to your triggers. What sets you off? What makes you feel insecure? What causes you to react instead of respond? The more you understand these patterns, the more control you gain over them. Instead of being a slave to your emotions, you become the observer of them. The second step is learning to pause. One of the most powerful things you can do when you feel an emotional reaction rising is to stop and breathe. Do not act immediately. Do not send that long text. Do not call in a state of panic. Give yourself time to process. When you pause, you create space for clarity. You allow logic and intuition to work together instead of letting fear take over. Another key to emotional mastery is shifting your perspective. When something happens that triggers an emotional response, ask yourself, is this situation really as bad as it feels? Will this matter in a week, a month, a year? Is my reaction helping or hurting the situation? When you start looking at things from a broader perspective, you gain control over how much power you give to any one moment. Emotional mastery also requires detachment from outcomes. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You stop attaching your self-worth to how others behave. You stop needing a specific response, action, or validation to feel okay. Instead, you operate from a place of inner security. You trust that no matter what happens, you will be fine. And when you exude that kind of self-assurance, people cannot help but be drawn to you. Another important aspect of emotional mastery is maintaining balance in your life. If your entire emotional state depends on one person or one relationship, you will always feel unstable. But when you have a full, rich life, hobbies, passions, goals, friendships, you create a solid foundation. No one person has the power to shake you because your happiness is not dependent on them alone. This is why people who have mastered their emotions are so magnetic. They are not easily rattled. They do not overreact. They do not seek constant reassurance. They move through life with a quiet confidence that is undeniable. And in relationships, this energy is powerful. It makes the other person feel that they must step up to match you rather than feeling like they can control you with their actions. Men, just like anyone else, feel the difference between someone who is emotionally reactive and someone who is emotionally composed. They feel it in the way you communicate, the way you handle conflict, the way you navigate uncertainty. When you are calm, centered, and in control of your emotions, they recognize that you are different. You are not someone they can manipulate with inconsistency. You are not someone who crumbles under pressure. You are someone they respect. Emotional mastery is not about never feeling emotions. It is about owning them. It is about making decisions from a place of strength rather than fear. It is about knowing that you have the power to choose how you respond, and in that choice, you hold the key to how others perceive and treat you. Scarcity is one of the most powerful psychological forces in human nature. People value what they believe is rare, hard to obtain, or at risk of being lost. This principle applies to everything from high-end luxury brands to the dynamics of human relationships. When something is always available, it is taken for granted. But when something is perceived as exclusive, selective, and not easily replaced, its value skyrockets. In relationships, this concept plays a crucial role. Many people make the mistake of thinking that by always being available, always saying yes, and always making someone their priority, they will be cherished more. But the reality is, when something is overly accessible, it loses its impact. The more you give without creating a sense of value, the more you blend into the background. Scarcity does not mean playing games or deliberately withdrawing to manipulate someone. It means recognizing your worth and ensuring that your presence is something meaningful, not something expected. It means understanding that when you make yourself too easy to access, you are not increasing connection, you are diminishing desire. Consider the psychology of high-end brands. Why do luxury companies like Rolex, Chanel, or Ferrari deliberately limit their supply? Why do exclusive clubs have long waiting lists? It's not because they can't produce more. It's because they know that people want what they feel they can't easily get. The moment something becomes too abundant, its perceived value drops. The same principle applies to attraction and relationships. When a man feels that your presence is guaranteed, that you will always be there, no matter how he acts, he subconsciously places you in a category of predictability. And predictability, when not combined with a sense of uniqueness or challenge, can lead to complacency. The most desired individuals are those who have a sense of independence, who have a life that is rich and fulfilling outside of any romantic connection. These are the people who do not drop everything the moment someone gives them attention. They are selective, intentional, and have high standards. They do not fear walking away if something is not aligned with their values. Scarcity in relationships is not about being distant or unavailable just for the sake of it. It is about demonstrating through actions that your time and energy are valuable. It is about maintaining a sense of mystery and individuality. It is about ensuring that you are not so easily accessed that the other person forgets to appreciate your presence. One of the biggest mistakes people make when they want someone to return to them is overcompensating. They try harder, they reach out more, they make themselves excessively available. But what does that communicate? It signals that they are in a position of lower value, that they need the other person more than the other person needs them. And the human mind, whether consciously or subconsciously, reacts by devaluing what is overly eager. Now think about the opposite scenario. Imagine someone who has a strong sense of self-worth. They do not chase, they do not beg, they do not over-explain themselves or over-invest in someone who is not showing equal effort. Instead, they maintain their dignity, their mystery, and their independence. They live a life that is fulfilling on its own, and because of this, their presence feels more precious. The reason this works is because of contrast. When someone expects constant availability and suddenly encounters a person who does not operate that way, they feel the difference. They feel the shift in energy. And that shift creates intrigue. It forces them to question, why isn't this person reacting like everyone else? That curiosity turns into attraction, and that attraction turns into a deeper level of respect. A key component of scarcity is self-restraint. It is the ability to not act on every impulse, to not seek immediate reassurance, to allow space for things to unfold naturally. Many people sabotage their own desirability by reacting too quickly, by always initiating, by never allowing the other person to experience absence. But absence is what fuels appreciation. Consider how distance impacts desire. If you eat the same meal every day, no matter how good it is, eventually you will take it for granted. But when you take a break, when you allow yourself time to miss it, that same meal suddenly becomes desirable again. The same logic applies to human interaction. When someone is too constant, too predictable, too available, the mind stops registering them as something exciting. The power of scarcity also lies in selective access. The most magnetic individuals are not those who are rude, cold, or intentionally unavailable. They are those who are choosy. They do not give their time and energy to just anyone. They have standards. They require effort before they fully invest. This creates an environment where the other person feels they must step up, they must put in work, they must earn that level of connection. And what is earned is always valued more than what is freely given. Another critical aspect of scarcity is the ability to walk away when necessary. Many people stay in situations that do not serve them out of fear, Fear of losing the person, fear of being alone, fear of what happens next. But this fear-driven mindset is the opposite of what creates attraction. The ability to walk away, to genuinely know that you will be fine regardless of the outcome, is one of the most powerful positions you can be in. It shifts the entire dynamic. When someone knows that you are not afraid to remove yourself from a situation that does not meet your standards, they think differently about how they treat you. They know they cannot take you for granted. They know that if they do not step up, they will lose you. And that awareness alone creates a deeper level of respect and admiration. Reality is, people crave what they believe they cannot fully possess. This is why celebrities, leaders, and highly confident individuals always seem to attract attention effortlessly. It is not because they are chasing people down, it is because they operate from a place of high value. They make it clear through their actions that access to them is a privilege, not a given. This is not about playing games. It is about understanding the psychology of attraction. When you make someone work for your attention, when you do not over-explain, when you maintain a sense of individuality and independence, you create a dynamic where they are naturally drawn to you. They feel the pull, the curiosity, the desire to get closer. And that is how true connection is built, not through excessive effort, but through an intentional sense of value. In a world that often glorifies hustle, control, and constant pursuit, one of the most overlooked yet incredibly powerful forces in attraction is feminine energy. Feminine energy is not about weakness or passivity. It is about flow, presence, and the ability to receive rather than chase. It is about stepping into a space where you allow things to come to you rather than forcing outcomes. And when it comes to relationships, men are instinctively drawn to women who embody this energy. Feminine energy is a state of being rather than doing. It is deeply rooted in confidence, self-trust, and emotional depth. It is the ability to embrace softness while remaining strong, to be nurturing without overgiving, and to allow space for a man to step into his masculine energy without feeling the need to control everything. The most powerful women in relationships are not the ones who try to out-masculine a man, but the ones who lean into their feminine power and create a dynamic that naturally draws him in. The key to feminine energy is receptivity. When you are in your feminine energy, you do not chase, you attract. You do not push, you allow. This does not mean you sit around waiting for things to happen. It means that instead of forcing, proving, or convincing, you operate from a place of confidence, knowing that what is meant for you will flow to you effortlessly. This is incredibly magnetic because it shifts the dynamic. Men are wired to pursue, to feel a sense of purpose in earning a woman's affection. Think about the most captivating women in history. They did not beg for attention. They did not overcompensate. They did not try to prove their worth through effort alone. Instead, they existed in a state of confidence, grace, and self-assurance. Their energy made them irresistible, not because they were the loudest or most aggressive, but because they had a presence that pulled people in without trying too hard. Feminine energy is also deeply connected to emotional depth. Men may be drawn to surface-level beauty, but what makes them stay is how a woman makes them feel. When you are in your feminine, you create an experience, one that is soft yet strong, open yet mysterious. You do not bombard a man with demands, but instead you inspire him to want to give, to step up, to cherish and protect. This is where many women unknowingly sabotage themselves. They believe they must take control, initiate everything, and lead the relationship forward. But the truth is, when a woman is always the one directing the energy, making the decisions, and pushing for more, it leaves little room for a man to step into his own masculine energy. He does not feel the need to pursue because he senses that she is already doing all the work. And when that happens, attraction begins to fade, not because he does not care, but because the natural polarity that fuels desire has been disrupted. Polarity is the key to attraction. Masculine and feminine energies are complementary forces. The more a woman leans into her feminine, the more it draws a man into his masculine. This does not mean submitting or being weak. It means embracing the power of flow, intuition, and receptivity. It means allowing a man to lead where he naturally wants to, while still maintaining your own strong sense of self. Another aspect of feminine energy that is deeply attractive is playfulness. Playfulness is the antidote to emotional heaviness, neediness, and control. When you embody a light, playful energy, you create a space where a man feels good in your presence. He associates you with joy, with ease, with a sense of excitement. Playfulness is not about immaturity. It is about the ability to keep things light, to engage in moments of spontaneity, to make a man laugh and feel at ease. Too often, people bring stress, pressure, and anxiety into their relationships. They overanalyze, they seek reassurance, they demand certainty. But true feminine energy does not operate from a place of fear. It operates from trust. Trust in oneself. Trust in the flow of the relationship. Trust that the right things will unfold without needing to force them. Men are deeply drawn to women who know how to receive. Society has conditioned many women to believe that they must do everything, give more, try harder, prove their worth. But when a woman allows herself to receive, whether it is affection, effort, or care, it signals to a man that he has a role to play in her life. And when a man feels needed in the right way, when he feels like his presence and actions have value, he naturally invests more. This is why being in your feminine energy is so powerful. It allows a man to feel like a man. It allows him to step up, to provide, to protect, to pursue. When a woman is always in her masculine, always doing, always proving, always controlling, it robs a man of the space to show up in his full masculine power. And without that dynamic, the relationship loses its spark. Feminine energy is also deeply tied to sensory presence. A woman who is fully in her feminine is present in her body, in the moment, in the experience. She is not caught up in the future, worrying about what will happen next. She is not operating from a place of anxiety or desperation. Instead, she is grounded in the here and now, enjoying the energy, the connection, the feeling of the moment. Men are highly attuned to energy. They may not always be able to articulate it, but they feel it. A woman who is constantly anxious, seeking validation, or overcompensating with effort feels heavy. But a woman who is in her feminine, who flows with life, who radiates confidence and ease, feels light. She is the kind of woman a man wants to be around, the kind he cannot get enough of, the kind he returns to over and over again. Feminine energy is not about fitting into a societal mold. It is about embracing the natural magnetism that exists within you. It is about stepping into your own power without needing to force anything. It is about recognizing that you do not need to chase, push, or convince anyone of your worth. Your energy alone, when fully aligned with confidence and authenticity, does all the work for you. When you master this, you create a dynamic where men are not just interested, they are captivated. They feel the pull, the desire to be close, the urge to pursue, not because you begged for it, not because you demanded it, but because your presence alone is enough to make them want to be around you.